But what I will say, it was a minority of the music, and now it's the majority. And I would be okay with music like that if the majority of Black music was based on what we can actually create and our talent. Because like I said, we have a ton of talent. I tend to think that when we get involved in certain things, we just do it better. I think creatively, Black people are very gifted. And where somebody is making our gift a curse, right? It's encouraging, it's music that's encouraging Black men to commit crimes. It's like a hip hop to prison pipeline. And I just, I really question it.
How do you feel when Meek Mill says he listens to you all the time? Because I've just thought about that when you was talking about the music that they make. He actually listens to you all the time. Did you see that tweet?
I did see that, and I reached out to him, and we had a private discussion very quickly, but it was so interesting because just based on that, because eventually the Black vote's not going to matter. Something that they worked so hard for is not going to matter. They get enough illegals in. What are we at? 10 million under Biden? And they're doing it intentionally. Like, it's going to be the same thing that they did to Black Americans in the 60s. What Lyndon Baines Johnson did when he established welfareism and the Great Society Act. They want to get these people in, offer them handouts, and turn them into economic slaves that will continue to vote for Democrats because they're getting free handouts. And it's incredibly racist, first and foremost, but because Black Americans are still, a lot of Black Americans, I should say, are still living under this deception that Lyndon Baines Johnson was a good president, even though he was an avowed racist. I mean, he hated Black people. I mean, one of the, so many times, hard R referring to us as the N-word. I'll have those N-words voting Democrat for the next 200 years. And this man is being hailed as a hero because he had to sign the Civil Rights Act, essentially with the...
Yeah, I saw that when Chappelle said what he said.
Yeah, because I was just thinking, I'm like, listen, Dave Chappelle, I didn't even think he was actually that funny in that skit. Of all the Chappelle skits that, exist, I didn't think he was that funny. I think he was really angry throughout that skit. But also, it's Dave Chappelle. You know what I mean? It's Dave Chappelle, and he knows my name, and he knows who I am. And I think that you need comedians. It's a protected space, and even if they're making fun of people, as soon as we start killing the jokers, we're no longer living in a society that we want to be in. Trust me, when the kings start killing the jokers, it's not good. And I love Dave Chappelle. I grew up on Dave Chappelle. I was genuinely honored that he even knew my name. I was just like,
what did you say?
It didn't make you feel no type of way. Called you the most articulate idiot he's ever seen.
Yeah, I didn't, like I said, I didn't think it was funny. I thought it was insulting, but I wanted to make a larger statement that we need the comedians. You know what I mean? And the illiteracy rate in inner cities right now is over 70%. We're talking about over 70% of Black boys that can't pass a basic reading exam. That is crazy. That is crazy. Across the United States entirely, 40%. We're at 40%. Yeah. So people think that they're going to public schools to get an education. It's the exact opposite. They are slowly making sure that you're never going to be able to have a proper education, and they're going to tell you what to think. That's what they want. They want the ability of a headline. And that's very scary. I talk about what they did on slave plantations, why we weren't allowed to learn how to read, because they knew that if they could control the narrative, then you could be enslaved forever, right? Your mind becomes enslaved when you can't read, when you say, okay, I learned that in a textbook, but let me read this, and actually see what I think. And I think that's intentional. I literally believe that there is an evil intent to re-enslave Black Americans. And the ability for us not to read, to me, is everybody should be hitting the alarm on that. Like, why aren't Black gun to his head because the country was on fire? JFK had just died, and there were riots in the streets protesting because of racism, and he did not want to sign it, but he did. And with the other hand, he signed the Great Society Act and incentivized welfareism and programs to incentivize not marrying Black men. To think that we had government agents knocking on the door, going into the homes of Black women and being like, there better not be a man that lives here. We're just here to check to make sure. If you want this check, dad can't be home. Every other ill that Black America is facing today is because we've removed fathers from the home. So I am like a big, I use my platform to talk about men a lot and the need for male leadership, everything that is so harmful, this, Me Too, false feminism, all of this crap. It's anti-man, and it's anti-man for a reason, because a society cannot survive without strong men. A household cannot survive without strong men. We need...
I love the way that you and Ben Shapiro are able to disagree, but then I guess still have a business relationship, because I saw him recently tell you, I think this was maybe a few months ago, he told you to quit over your Israel coverage, your Palestine Israel coverage.
Yeah.
What was that about?
Well, he told me, well, the tweet that he responded to was actually just some biblical passages. And he thought that it was me saying that I had to choose money over I don't know how we interpret it, but it was definitely not. I just meant it as like, peace, calling for peace, because, there was a video circulating of him calling me a disgrace and a faux professional or whatever it was. And I decided to choose peace. And then when I chose peace, he responded to the peace with not peace.
So why wouldn't he just fire you?
Well, as I explained on Tucker Carlson's show, like, Ben doesn't have the...
So looking at the country now, right? Of course, there's Trump, there's Biden. Who do you think is better for our community?
But in terms of the better candidate for Black Americans, I asked people the question, how were you living under Trump? The person that they told you was going to put us back into chains and we were all going to be slaves again. How was the economy under Trump, and how are you doing today? And every time you ask that question, everyone knows that they were living better under Trump, because he was deregulating the environment, and people were just living better under Trump. And he is, in my opinion, a better president, because at least he's telling you the truth and he's telling you what he actually thinks. One of the things that I hated the most about him when he first came down the escalator, I was like, oh, he's way too brash. Obama sounds way more polite. But I asked the question, do you want to be politely lied to, or have somebody that's at least telling you what they think about you in no uncertain...
People actually were mad at you, right? When you got into the conversation with T.I. at the Revolt Music Conference, right? And you were saying that, and people didn't understand it, but it seems like people are understanding what you were trying to say back then.
Yeah, and I am so happy to have those moments, because, like, I think T.I. is a trash person. I'll say that 1,000 times over, because first and foremost, I had spoken to T.I. prior to that event. Like, T.I. was the only person on stage that I actually knew. And for the same reasons that I met you, Kanye had put us in touch. We had talked, and I know that T.I. thinks more conservatively. So he was literally putting on a show. And so it just makes me wonder, especially with all the stuff that, like, came out in the Diddy lawsuit, like, who's controlling T.I.? Because that was wild. He was literally putting on a show like he didn't know me on stage. Like, he was surprised I was saying the stuff. He was way more level-headed and rational when we were on the phone. And I still look back on the moment. I'm like, what was he doing? It was like a circus act up there.